Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Challengers. Got a lot to cover because we are both back from Atlanta. Had a chance to, of course, watch the Pro-AM, watch all of the Challengers Open go down, and now we already have some new news brewing on the timeline. Got a lot to cover this week in Challengers. Now, to kickstart things we wanted to go over, because we know we've kind of been hyping this up, was the 4 teams participating in the Pro-Am at Major 3. Just in case you didn't have the chance to fully watch all of the action, because we had 4 streams of coverage brewing across the 4 groups, we want to do a little bit of a recap and sort of give some of our thoughts on some of the results that were there. Let's just go group by group, Andy. I think this is going to be the most fun just to be able to do. We had a chance to cast some of these matches that we saw go on, which was really, really fun. One that we didn't get the chance to cast, though, was, of course, Omit Noir. It was just labeled Omit in this entire event. Come out 3-0 against Optic Texas, the literal first match of the entire tournament on mainstream. It was there. This was literally Ethan's first series ever played on LAN, might I add. And to get out and have to face Optic Texas, maybe not the best time, but you regain a little bit because then you drop on down to the elimination round and you 3-0 a pro CDL team.
You do indeed, and well, we'll say ex-pro CDL team because
Yikers.
Most of the Surge roster has been dumped. I think everybody except for Lunars has been basically rumored to have been dropped currently, which, yeah, I mean, we got to see, we were in the hotel. I saw TJ Hiley in the bar afterwards. I think he knew that his number was up. I'll be completely honest with you. Unfortunate showing for Surge, but a wonderful showing out of Omit Noir. Now, of course, for Ethan and DK, this is an insane story. DK, he kind of broke through this year, and everyone was like, oh my God, this kid is the real deal, the business. But he'll choke when he gets to the Elite. Looks insane in the Elite. Okay, all right, he'll be off when he gets to LAN. Played great on LAN. Then it was like, all right, well, the Pro-Am, it'll be too much for him. Yes, Optic Texas were too much for him, as they are for most of the players in the Pro League. But he was just fine in this series. In fact, glorious to watch. But that's not actually the most surprising story. It's actually the fact that Ethan, who 3 months ago was a Rocket League player, is actually gross at COD. So, yeah. All right, then. This team are ridiculous, and very much so glad to see Rafi's approach into picking up young teams paying off.
No, it was really fun to finally be able. Sorry, there's a lot of hype around them, how they perform on LAN, and I think they kind of heed the call. Maybe don't get as far as they obviously would like to, but I think the unfortunate thing, having G2 be that second sort of upper end CDL team in your group, it was just rough. G2 looked really, really good, at least on that first day that was there. Let's turn our eyes to Group B. We then have the Huntsmen, okay? You and I got a chance to cast this first matchup between Toronto Koi and the Huntsmen, and it looked close for like a first set of rotations on the first hard point, and then it wasn't close at all in any way, shape, or form.
Nope. No.
It was rough. I'm not going to lie. It was like, it's so funny because like we obviously get to cast and we talk about the Huntsmen all the time. We see their performance within Challengers. And we're like, this team's gross. They've really found themselves, right? They looked insane in the Elite. Okay. They fell just a little bit short. And then it's like, you're playing with the big dogs now. Good luck. Have fun.
Yeah. I mean, like Koi as well are just different gravy, right? Like Koi are, in my opinion, this is probably harsh on Insight, but if you'd had a different AR in for Insight, maybe a Nasty out of Boston Breach or a couple of other players that were kind of floating around before they decided to stick with Insight, I think this team is taking away chips this year and a top 2 team. So I don't know. You've got Joe DeCeves looking absolutely out of this world. He's a top 5 player without having won anything this year. And so, yeah, for the Huntsmen, where a lot of your power comes from your SMGs, you're trying to shoot back at him, and he was running you over. And you and me, we tried to cast this. It won't be our finest cast because we were basically just talking about people being lined up into body bags. Rough time for the Huntsmen. And then very unfortunate to go on and lose in Game 5.
Yeah.
With the Royal Ravens. That one's a real dagger blow because obviously you probably think you're getting there, right? You're kind of like looking into the headlights and you're kind of like, all right, this is going to be a way of us to kind of punch on through when all the other challenger teams are failing. But you just don't get it done in that Game 5 S&D, which their S&D has been pretty solid through the year as well. So it's just a shame, really. Yeah,
I would have loved to see them be able to take that game against the Royal Ravens. I honestly probably don't think they make it past the Heretics.
I didn't realize it was actually that close. So the S&Ds, round 11 to Royal Ravens in the first one, and then 6-4 to Royal Ravens in the second.
Very possible, right? And then you kind of look against Miami Heretics, who hey, you might be able to squeak out something against that team, right? If your S&Ds are looking that good, you might be able to steal both S&Ds, and then all you got to have is a respawn go in your favor. So potentially close for the Huntsman to make it out of there, but Hasty and then drop down. This next group we got to talk about, this is going to be a really fun one, dude. This was Project Notorious in Group C. They are actually the only... no, they're not. Okay, I was going to say, they might have been the only Challengers team in their first winners round to take a map off one of the pro teams. Rock did the same in Group D, but the fact that they drop on down, we had the chance to light the sun up. We went into this entire weekend thinking, because we kind of mapped out what potential matches we'd have. We thought, oh, this is going to be Boston versus Project Notorious here in this elimination round. You know, no way. And then we're surprised. Boston come out 3-1 the Gentlemates, and now all of a sudden we're like, what? We're looking at a Project Notorious versus Gentlemates in the elimination round. You and I have a chance to cast it. It goes to a game 5, round 11. All of that shit's getting pumped out in the venue, mind you. So they throw that up on the big screen. Everybody in venue got to watch. I know Scump, Zuma, all the watch parties were watching it. Dude, we got to talk about that Plaza S&D, because if you didn't watch it, please go back, because dear God, was it maybe one of the most fun games of Search I've ever seen.
Yeah, with a gruesome weekend really for Notorious, because how it could have been so different. Like, you lose to Thieves, that's kind of expected. Basically, they were very unlucky to get this group in the first place. Yeah. They get the second top seed, best seed out of North America. The only reason they don't have top seed is because Rock have dominated everything over in Europe and, of course, won the original Open, second and then in Birmingham. So for Notorious, you're kind of like, all right, we got the second best seed. Should get a pretty solid group. Now, you're probably expecting like a Miami Royal Ravens or something like that in your group. Instead, you get Thieves and Gentlemates, because they both shit the bed in the late stage of the CDL qualifiers. So Notorious walk into that and go, okay, that's not very kind. The fact that you then square up against Gentlemates, you go up 2-1 in the series. You then, I mean, the thing is as well, like they... if I remember right, the hard points were like incredibly one-sided. Yes. But in S&D, it'd been relatively one-sided in the first one anyhow. Yeah. You then go up 5-2 on the Plaza. You just need like one of your bang-outs to work. And the thing is, they looked so much better than Gentlemates in that matchup, because they'd also thrown a couple of different looks, a couple of different plays, and it had all paid off. Gentlemates seemingly had no answer, and round by round, they just choked it to not get through. And the thing is, if they'd gotten through, I haven't beaten Boston. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think if they go through, they're actually probably the only team to make it out of that group. Yeah, the game 2 in that series as well is definitely one to go check out as well. It was a Scar S&D. The Ben Beans Masterclass. That guy went 13-1 with a sniper. He didn't die. It was absolutely wild. Insane performance. How dominant he was over a very good Gentlemates roster. That team is good at search and destroy. And just see how much he was able just to basically hard counter them was crazy. But last but not least, we don't have to talk about this one very long, because unfortunately it was just stinkers all the way through. Rock, they do take one map off the phase in their first round. We think we're going into this, man. I'm like, oh, they probably get maybe potentially a matchup against Riyadh Falcons here. No, they go up against Cloud9 New York, and this is the best that Cloud9 has ever looked, and the worst that Rock has ever looked. I'm going to put it straight out there. I am actually like downright pissed with Rock for giving us that matchup. Like, you and me went into that weekend. We were so pumped. We were so excited. Obviously, we got to cast Challenge early on in the year. We're ready to cast some CDL on land, baby. We get given our games. First 3 series. Now, of course, your first 2, you're expecting to kind of be one-sided, right? Now, that's largely pro teams against amateur teams. We did get Minnesota Surge, but we also expected that to be one-sided, and it was. Second game, one-sided. Came up to Cloud9 and Rock. You and me, ready to go. We've been talking about people getting smothered the whole way through. This is going to be insane. It's going to be an all-out warfare. Rock got pummeled. I'll quickly check the actual count on the maps. 250 to 188, and that's being kind. 6-1 in the S&D, 5-1 in the Overload. Rock were awful, and it completely left us feeling like we had hold of a lead balloon. It was awful. We were just like, this is rubbish. What the hell is this? Thankfully, we got Notorious in Paris after that, but yeah, Rock delivered arguably the worst showing of the entire tournament. Yeah, it was not great. Not great, but you can see there, that's how obviously our Challengers teams were doing good in the Pro-Am. A couple of individual standout performances. We mentioned, of course, obviously those EU boys. I also just got to personally shout out, obviously from the Huntsman, I think Renegade looked like your best player on the weekend for the Huntsman in any of those matchups.
I think you're really seeing a lot of that veteranship come out for Project Notorious. It's got to be Beans for me. I think he, in every single round, was really trying to do his best to try and push that team. And it's yet again back to that search and destroy. Really, I think kind of reminded, at least Project Notorious, why these players used to be back in the league. Maybe they're getting some second looks here. We'll talk about that later. But that's how all of our Challenger teams did in the Pro-Am. But don't worry, that wasn't their only competition. We still got to talk about the Open. Obviously, the Open was also rolling on while all of this fun Pro-Am action was going on. And who are none other the champions than the Telluride Bush, baby? You know, we had a chance because we were kind of where we were situated in the venue. We could kind of see, we had challengers in front of us. We could see the side stations kind of from our stage. So every once in a while we could like look over and see. We also had the Bush watch party kind of in the back as well. Yes. So anytime I wanted to know like how Bush was doing, I would just kind of do like a loop and then just like peek my head over the side and look at the TV if I could see what was going on. And dude, every single time we looked over, I'm like, dude, the Bush are okay. A new game and a new mode. They're up. All right. Like every series I poke over, they're up 2-0 in a series, something like that. And it was really fun to see. But this was just an insane stat line. I love that Jerry tweeted it out. It was really fun being able to meet all these boys in person. But 7 in a row, Enigma, from the losers bracket. That is quite the feat, I got to say.
It is as well, because obviously you go into Saturday and there's the reseeding, right? Yep. That's the way it worked this time, because obviously you had to let the teams come down from the Pro-Am and all the chaos that happened there. Face Falcons 3-1 to kick things off, punch you straight down to losers. You then had to go to a game 5 against the Outbreak team, whatever they were called. So you go, I mean, that's like almost eliminated top 16. Like this could have been an awful weekend for you. And then your run is horrendous as well that you've got to face. This is a gauntlet. The Stallions roster, Cabal roster, Huntsman, FaZe Falcons again, which Jerry and the crew got their lick back, let me tell you, letting them know well and truly where they stood. Omit Brooklyn, Omit Noir. Like that is a run. And then I know top 16, you are expected to get some really strong rosters regardless of kind of where you end up placing, but I don't know, man. Like a game 5 and then into that, I'm surprised they had the stamina to pull it off. So incredible stuff out of them.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about who was dubbed the MVP, that being Cammy, that was there. It was really funny because I heard Mook talking about a story where, you know, they go down in that game 5, right? They're down 0-2. That game 5 was a reverse sweep. And so he like looks over, they're coming back out, and Mook sees Cam and he goes, yo, like, guys gotta lock in here. We're not making an exit this early on a Saturday after all of the hype and energy. And Cammy goes, no, we got it. We got it. And Mook's like, are you sure? Because I'm looking at you down 0-2 to kind of randos here who you should not be there. And I guess Cammy was the one who was like, no, dude, don't worry. We're locked in. We got it. And I think some of the stat lines kind of maybe prove that. Maybe that's what they needed. They need that little bit of a grueler early on in the day so they could keep frying. Anytime I tuned in, Cammy was absolutely, for lack of a better word, pissing. And you can see here, 1.21 overall, a 1.28 in grands alone, dude. He was not dying, and he was frying everyone.
No, yeah, it's a case of I'm also very glad for Cammy, just in the sense of like this guy kind of rides with confidence, and obviously we all remember Cold War Cammy. He's got a couple of different nicknames to kind of throw in there, but he is a player that has lit up the Pro League before, and his slow slide from the top has been painful to watch, and you can see the confidence being sapped out of him over the years. Let's see with Challengers. He now has an opportunity to be a part of an org that I think really suits him while he's down here in Challengers. I expect him to go back up again at some point. Yep. But I think right now he's in a position of, he's got the media behind him, he's got this fan base behind him, he's riding the momentum. And so when I hear stuff like that as well, where it's like, okay, this is confident Cammy coming back, he's a real talent. Like, he doesn't belong in Challengers. So yeah, glad to see he had his weekend. And yeah, some of those numbers are absolutely insane. Like grand finals, a 1.28 overall. Again, that's against the second best team in the tournament at that point. That is putting on at the pinnacle. So yeah, great stuff out of him. And yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that he got MVP considering the numbers, but the entire team, it felt like really rose to the occasion. Because as you said, down 2-0 to potentially go out top 16, no doubt at that point, boys were shitting bricks. Yeah, it felt like every series I was tuning into and kind of when I was talking to them as well, it was like everybody had an opportunity in every series to have even within series as well, to have those maps where they would have those takeover modes. And I think that
was really kind of, you and I talk about a lot in multiplayer. Those are the exact type of DNA that you're looking from a team. That's how you win championships. You can't just be relying on one person to try and pop off and carry the team to victory. You have to have those maps where everybody can have the opportunity to kind of come online and continue frying. And I think obviously for the Bush, that was 100% the case through those 7 series. In order to be able to cut their way through a loser's side, it was just everybody had to have those maps where they really turned on up. So, while yes, Cammy put up some insane numbers, you can't also forget what the contributions of the rest of the team is able to do, right? And so just being able to see them be able to kind of line it up. I know Abe had a fantastic weekend as well. He had I got a chance to sit down on the watch party with the Bush boys and against their match against the Huntsmen. And there was a Colo HP, dude, and Abe was kind of doing some gross things, I'm not going to lie, on that map. And it was just like fun to see Abe popped off in the map. And then you look at the search and like Capsule was hitting routes and then really popping off in the search. And you look at the overload and all of a sudden there's a Cammy was going crazy in the overload. It was like kind of cool to be able just to see that no matter what the map was, even if someone had kind of a stinker map the map before and they won it, at least they could kind of reset coming into the map afterwards. So realistically, this just has me pumped for the next Elite, man. I think that the Bush, obviously not super happy with their performance in the last Elite. You come on in, you win the Open. Hey, let's see them lock in for the next one. Maybe we'll see what's able to happen.
Well, also, we know the Bush have faced issues, right? Over the year, at certain points, they've been great. They've fallen flat. Now it feels like they're coming great again. This is the right time, let me tell you. Because if the Bush fans are unaware, obviously a lot of you are going to be new to the space. Challenger Champs is incredibly important. When you get there, top 3 will go through to the Esports World Cup, where you will play essentially another Pro-Am type format situation. So you might have missed one, but if your boys come all online at the same time, you've got the opportunity there to make it through. If you don't do that, it's the last chance qualifier. But honestly, right now, the way this team are playing, you could see them doing something special at Champs.
But of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about all of the other maybe surprises and different matchups that happened throughout the Open because, hey, we had some upsets. We had some bang outs. I'll start from the kind of the top side, I think, first, and then we can make our way down. Fantastic winners finals. I know that maybe the map count doesn't make a show, but the fact that we get an Omit EU versus Omit Brooklyn winners finals was super cool in order to see. It's obviously a 3-1 in the favor of Omit EU, but I think if you're Rafi, you're probably pretty happy about this, right? Omit EU, they make some waves in the Pro-Am, they get dumped on down here into the Open, and now you have not one, but both of your teams meeting in that winners finals. You got to be feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah, really glad for Rafi. Like he tweeted out something about it, like we're not as loud anymore, we're not as we don't shout about it as much anymore, but we're still here and we're still a part of the conversation without a shadow of a doubt. Like Rafi knows how to build rosters, supports them incredibly well, has great connections with the league in terms of negotiating deals. That's a part of why he gets so many people trusting him to play under their brand. But it's also a case of you've probably watched like the Bush come in and Huntsman come in and Stallions come in and take away a lot of your thunder over the years. Yeah. And Rafi hasn't really bit at anyone. He hasn't really rose to it and kind of like taking a swing at anybody. He said, hang on a minute, don't forget about us. He's just kind of let his teams do the talking. Yeah. And yeah, to see them both in winners finals is a wonderful thing. Of course, one of them then guaranteed a ticket to punch on through to grands. You got Omit team first, Omit team third. I'm hoping that the entire structure was eating steak dinners that weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping too. And dude, even just looking at the Omit Brooklyn bracket, they kind of that was a tough bracket for them to get to, dude.
Oh yeah.
First round 1, they have to go against For Fun, 3-1. Okay, sick. Second round, they're going against Project Notorious, who just looked insane against the Paris Gentlemates, 3-1. Okay. Huntsman, next round, 3-1, baby. And then, well, you get 3-1 by your sister team. And that's the unfortunate reality. And then they drop on down and they lose 3-1 to Bush. Just going on out. It's a weekend of 3-1s for Omit Brooklyn. But I think to me, when I look at this bracket, for I think Omit EU, it's a little bit easier if I look kind of their stage to be able to get here, right? They go through that Omnia roster, that Cabal roster. Okay, nothing crazy. 3-0ing Rock, I think, is very impressive, but that's also a team that you play. That's an inter-region team. So you're going to have to download, unlike Rock versus some of these North American challenger teams. And then, then you're just kind of going against Omit Brooklyn and you just kind of have to ride the wave from there. I think for me, when I think about North American challengers, what this is telling me is that I think we have to put a little bit more stock in Omit Brooklyn potentially when it comes to this next stage of the Elite, if they can keep up this level of performance. Obviously, LAN is a lot different than online, but given so, because they kind of looked a little bit shaky, right? We didn't know how we felt about them in Elite 3. I think we can put a lot more stock in them now here for Elite 4.
No, I definitely agreed. I think that for Brooklyn as well, if you are forgetting, by the way, for fun was Mac, Millie, Wakening, and Yuli. Like, not a bad roster. Obviously, you should know Project Notorious and Huntsman. So yeah, this is a pretty gross run without a shadow of a doubt. I think on the opposite side of things as well, for All-Mid, there's almost a story that we passed over a little bit there. And that's the 3-0 beating of Rock. I'm pretty sure the last time they played them, Rock reverse swept All-Mid in the finals of the Elite. So what a return to form! What a way to shake off that hangover by that young squad. So yeah, incredible stuff out of them. But you're right about All-Mid Brooklyn. I mean, we right now you're probably looking at it. The only North American team that beat you was Bush. You're not going to have to face All-Mid until you get to another Open or when we get to Challenger Champs, for example. So right now, if you're that roster, you're probably thinking, and I'll be honest, Brooklyn, 2 real Paul X, Standy, and Rex. We know there's going to be some movement from pro teams. I reckon there will be people trying to take away Bush players. Maybe, I don't know. I doubt anyone goes for the All-Mid EU squad because of visas and stuff. Maybe next year. But I don't know if too many people are going to go for that Brooklyn roster. And if they can stay together as a core 4, that makes them very dangerous out of the back half of this year.
I think that's a really good shout out, man. Especially when we kind of looked our eyes towards Elite 4. Yeah, we're going to go through a whole nother round of roster mania. We know some people are getting moved up. We know some people are going to move around. But I think if this Brooklyn roster can stay together, they all of a sudden look a little bit more formidable. A couple other upsets that we wanted to highlight are just fun little storylines. We mentioned it when we talked about Bush winning, but it was, of course, round 1, FaZe Falcons versus Bush, right? It's 3-1 in the favor of FaZe Falcons. Lot of chatter, lot of energy in the venue. People screaming over monitors. Yeah. Literally so much so that security had to get involved. Maybe that was because somebody else threw a haymaker at a standby person earlier on in the day. I think that was probably more what it was. They didn't want to.
To be clear, none of our top teams. This was something to do with the Friday. This was not to do with our. This was Friday
and some amateur that literally no one cares about. I think punching somebody that was chirping him. And from what I heard was probably a worthwhile chirp for what it's worth. But seeing them coming through. But then it's kind of this fun story, right? FaZe Falcons, they lose to the Huntsmen. They're now trying to be able to make their way through. They actually also, they're the team that eliminate Rock in a 3-2 game 5. And they meet up with the Bush again in losers, losers semifinals that they're able to have. And it's a 3-0 back against the Bush. The main thing that I want to kind of highlight here, it is great to see sort of a rivalry like this between these two big organizations. I just think it's so good for challengers, man.
No, I agree. And the thing is, this is another wonderful thing that Bush have brought. They are going to live, ride, and die by that sword of talking shit, right? They are not going to quietly go into the night. They're not trying to okay, no, we're just going to let our playing do. They're like, hell no. We are playing Call of Duty. We are here to stir the pot. We are here to create storylines. They recognize that we are an entertainment product. And so, don't get me wrong, I don't think every single team is made of those people who are going to cause trouble. I don't think every single team has the players that are capable of making that trouble. But Bush, even if their players aren't willing to, I remember that clip of Jerry just clapping really kind of sarcastically over towards the FaZe Falcons players. And it's just okay. All right, this is another part of the reason why we love you guys so much, because you go out there. And do I feel for the FaZe Falcons? Absolutely, because no doubt their notifications have been full over the weekend. But at the same time, you mess with fire, you're probably going to get burned. Yeah,
and one last upset that we got to talk about here. Dude, it's this Omni roster, right? From, of course, the EU region that's there. Actually, I'm sorry. Part of this is actually the Omnia NA roster that was coming on in and playing, right? So you have Andy, Booger, Nate, and Peel. Okay, talk about this. So this is when I talk about when we come to these Challengers Opens and there's just an open. This is just, hey, we're gonna put 4 people together and just see what we can make happen. Talk about magic, right? They come in here into this first round. They lose against Omit EU. Okay, great. They drop on down. They actually take out P7. Okay, very impressive. What's more impressive though is their next matchup going against Project Notorious. And it's not even that they beat them. It's that they 3-0 Project Notorious, dude. I don't know if you're notorious, if you're just completely dejected by that point because you just lost this Heartbreaker series to Gentlemates. You then lose to Omit Brooklyn. And now you're coming into this. And it's this should be a team that you walk the floor with. And you're just not. That's there. Tough scenes. But also, we got to give some credit, of course, to this Omnia roster.
Yeah, to try and give them a little bit of credit over on this Omnia roster, this is Nate that we saw play from at Brooklyn at the start of the year. He just turned 18, I believe, coming into this year. So he was put in, he was kind of lifted up as like this potential breakthrough player. Hasn't been a good year for him. He's kind of slowly slid backwards down through the Challengers ranks. I think he was on Fries in the Bag or whatever the bloody hell they were called recently. Yep. Finished pretty poorly within the elite, basically. And that seems to be where he's kind of sitting. He's like one of those kind of players who's going to hang on the edge of the elite, get promoted back into it, get relegated out of it, and so on. For Peel, the time you and me got to cast over him in stage 1, wasn't a good showing at all. He was alongside Zvik, if I remember correctly. For Booger and Andy, I don't know these names too much. I'd have to click and find out who they are. They're names that I've seen in the scene, but in terms of achievements, this might be your biggest one.
It might be your biggest one, and be able to take down that Project Notorious roster, you should hopefully be feeling themselves. And maybe when it comes, of course, to some of those elite opens, maybe in for Elite Four, maybe a team that we now have to watch out for and keep our eyes on. But some good stuff happening all across the Open. I think this was a good idea for us to kind of get some eyes on some new teams and to kind of tee us up for maybe what we can expect from some of our top rosters as we look towards, of course, that Elite Season 4. Obviously, DreamHack Atlanta, I think, lived up to a lot of the hype that we had been putting on it between the Pro-Am and also the Open, okay? There was a lot of just fun matches and fun Call of Duty. It was a great weekend of COD overall. But we have a little bit of time, Andy, until we have to worry about challengers coming on back. So what was your favorite part of DreamHack Atlanta, and what are you looking forward to, of course, as we get ready to prepare for the next season?
Well, looking forward to is a hard one. I think it's kind of where a lot of these teams sit because this is when it all becomes incredibly serious. We do have one more Open, of course, in Paris. Then it's about Challenger Champs, getting yourself qualified for EWC. Right now, this is the perfect time for a lot of teams to hit form. So hoping that the Bush can kind of stick together and figure their thing out. Don't know about that yet. We're already seeing some potential rumors on the timeline. But yeah, a lot of different stuff happening. Maybe favorite moment of the Pro-Am. It's a tough one because both my favorite and yet least favorite moment of the Pro-Am was probably the Project Notorious run. Like, they looked great until they didn't. But when it looked like Notorious were going to take something away, I mean, maybe go with the fact that Omit beat Surge, right? Because the Challengers team did something. But I was like, the best chance that Challengers has of a team getting through is probably going to be Notorious. And then they threw it away the way that they did. So favorite was them looking great, and then least favorite was them suddenly not.
Well, hey, let us know in the comments, what was your favorite moment from either, of course, the Pro-Am side, from the Challengers Open side? Do you think the CDL should do more Pro-Ams? Let us know. We'll definitely let you know our opinion in the future on that one. That is for certain. But a lot of action here. We have a little bit till Challengers comes on back, so don't worry. We got a lot of content coming your way to help fill the gap until we get there. But until then, that's all we have for this week in Challengers.